Well. United is the gift that keeps on giving. There is never a dull day when it comes to this club. Erik Ten Hag has just granted a blockbuster interview with Gary Neville on Sky Sports, where he's made some very interesting revelations. Is he speaking his truth? Is it a man who is making the last defense so he can stay on a bit longer? Or is it just waffle? Just excuses? We'll be digging into all of that today on United Today. Before we do that, see that subscribe button down there? If you've not hit it, hit the subscribe button so you do not miss any of our content. When we do return, when we play this video, When we do return, we'll dig into every bit and piece of this interview. Stay tuned.
Why has this club struggled in recruitment to get the players that the manager wants for the last 10 years? Not just with you, but for the last 10 years. When you first came, you wanted Frankie de Jong, and you didn't get Frankie de Jong. He was your one player you wanted. Why has this club struggled to get those players in?
So it's always difficult to say about 10 years, and would be good to do research. But yeah, I think this club can only have outstanding players. That's true, because you are the expectations are so high. Manchester United is the biggest, or maybe second, third biggest club in the world, with worldwide the most, the highest fan base. So expectations will always be there. Everyone has an opinion about Manchester United, and it can only be that outstanding players. We couldn't always get the players we wanted, but then you have to build, and then you have to you have to accept that you get talents in, instead of already the players who are already proved it in the past. And we had some choices made with talents like Rasmus Højlund, and I can see a striker who already proved it, who we wanted to sign, but we couldn't get him. And then we went to Rasmus, but with Rasmus he's a talent.
You're talking about Harry Kane there.
Yeah, but it's not. But Harry Kane, you get 30 goals, and I think Rasmus, he will get there, but he needs time.
So it turns out Erik Ten Hag did want Harry Kane after all. He did want Harry Kane, a proven Premier League striker, Harry Kane, a 30-goal a season striker, Harry Kane. And then Manchester United could not make it happen, so he had to turn to an alternative, the talented young, unknown, proven striker from Atalanta called Rasmus Højlund. This is the problem with this football club. We do not do the right things at the right time. When we need to sign certain players, we just miss out on them. Manchester United should be signing the best players in the world. That's true. But even if you're not able to sign your number one targets, Manchester United should be looking to sign equally proven players of the same ilk as the ones that they miss out on. You do not miss out on Harry Kane and then end up with a 20-year-old boy who is supposed to lead the line for a huge club like Manchester United. I'm not saying anything against Rasmus Højlund, but that is just too much to expect from a kid. Imagine we had signed Harry Kane. The expectations at this football club would have been automatically different. We would have expected a lot more. Even in Harry Kane's bad seasons for Spurs, he would still guarantee you the goals that he almost always scores. He's gone to the Bundesliga, a totally different league, and torn it apart, scoring over 40 goals for Bayern Munich, the Champions League semi-final. See, it's not excuses, it's not waffle, it's the truth. Managers have been let down by this club on countless occasions. What Erik Ten Hag is saying, it's no different from Louis van Gaal telling us that we did not get him a Sadio Mane. It's not different from Moyes telling us that we did not give him a Gary Bale and we ended up with a Juan Mata. It's not different from Jose Mourinho crying and begging for a centre-back after finishing second place in the league, our highest points total since Alex Ferguson, and crying for some reinforcement at the back and actually getting nobody, no centre-back. It's no different from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer asking for a Haaland or a Bellingham and ending up with basically none of those two players. We are not saying, or I don't think he's saying, Manchester United should or can always buy the best players. But we should at least try. And if we do miss out on the very best of talents as your first choice, the second choice options shouldn't be totally different profile, shouldn't be far off in terms of qualities and talent as what you wanted before. It does not help anyone in order to build any good team. This is why when some people say the environment around the club hasn't been good, it speaks to gospel. Because if you had people who had the interest in building the football club over a longer period of time, irrespective of the manager who is in charge, they will be making sure they will be buying the right players for the right game model, new fancy word, right game model, that would suit the club over a period of time. So much so that whatever manager comes in can still manage a very good set of players, can still manage a very good team. But that has not been the case at Manchester United. And he makes mention of it, just like Ole made mention of it, just like Jose made mention of it, just like Louis van Gaal made it, just like David Moyes made mention of it. We've just been on a cycle of repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again, expecting the same results. These are truths, his truths. But then, is he speaking waffle as well? There are some fans who would say, all these things are not excuses for the manager making mistakes on the football pitch in terms of tactics, in terms of selection, in terms of in-game management. Those are all legitimate claims. But then Erik Ten Hag explains to Gary Neville as to why he cannot play the Ajax way. Let's just listen to this video. Let's just watch and listen to this video, and then we'll come back.
I wanted to ask you about, you answered the question maybe last season actually about, you were asked about, your team at Ajax were one of the most beautiful teams to watch, the way they played football were amazing, but you said you couldn't play that style here. Yeah. And it always interested me that, thinking about, because when Louis van Gaal came to Manchester United, he played a style that was, I would say, very Ajax, Barcelona style. Why could you not bring that style here? Why did you feel like you couldn't play the style in terms of the same style?
Because then you have to bring in players. So then you need
a budget. Recruitment.
In the recruitment, you need the players with those typical assets, and you can't bring a player, say, who is here, who has a typical style of play, and I don't want to change his nature.
Yeah. And so Frankie de Jong would have been allowed you more to play this style maybe if he'd have been brought in a couple of years ago.
That would have been Frankie de Jong and Casemiro, and they would really be connected with each other. They would be really complementary with each other, absolutely. But that is a typical play. If you want to play the Ajax style, you need that type of player. Yeah.
Just in terms of,
there you have it. He speaks again of the fact that you need certain players at a football club to be able to play a certain way. He wanted Frankie de Jong and Casemiro. Not Frankie de Jong or Casemiro. He wanted both. We failed to give him both. Instead, we had to go and get an Eriksen on a free transfer. Maybe because of financial fair play regulations, we had to do such a thing. Maybe the boy wasn't interested. But even if he wasn't interested in coming to Manchester United, why did we not try and get somebody of the same ilk as Frankie de Jong, with the same qualities and the same abilities? He couldn't have been the only player with those attributes on this planet. But it speaks to the poor recruitment team. It speaks to how poorly this club is run. That when you don't have a plan A, there was no suitable plan B. You got Eriksen on a free, maybe due to financial fair play, like I said. But whose fault is it when it comes to financial fair play? It can't be the fault of the manager. The fault of this football club in how we have mismanaged our finances over the past 11 years. And after a year or two, Eriksen is of no purpose. I guess that's why the manager has created his own Frankie de Jong in Kobe Mainoo, which kind of makes sense. But then again, how come we can't defend properly? How come we can't set up properly, even if we can't play like Ajax? How come we can't set up defensively well? He says, Manchester United have had 47 different injuries this season. We've had over 30 different backlines. and we can't create any form of automatisms and whatnot. It could be legitimate. A counterclaim would be, how come other clubs, despite having injuries, are able to still put up a good tactical plan that will be able to fit the players that they have? Then the answer could be, our squad may just simply not be good enough compared to other clubs that we compare ourselves to. The best clubs in the world. We cannot compete with them because we've not built good enough squads. Is there an excuse for Erik Ten Hag? Is it just waffle? Does it just make any sense? We would like to know your comments concerning all of these things in the comment section. We want to know your thoughts. Is Erik Ten Hag making a last stand for himself? Is he speaking truths to what has gone on wrongly in this football club over so many years? Or is it just waffle? Is it just excuses? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. But if you want to know my personal view, I take it from this standpoint. For many who do not know, I'm a doctor by profession who has worked in the third world country before. And if conditions are not ideal for any person of any expertise, you do not expect the best of outcomes. You're more likely to make mistakes than not. If the conditions are not right for you in a hospital, wherever that you work, no matter how smart you are, no matter how clever you are, if you are supposed to improvise in any situation, you're very likely to make errors than not. I feel that's what's happened to the manager. He's not managed the squad as it is as well as he should, despite all the challenges that he's had. But then I say to myself, good managers do not become bad managers overnight. Louis van Gaal did not become a bad manager overnight. I don't think Jose Mourinho became a bad manager overnight, and neither has Erik Ten Hag been a bad manager overnight. He managed the squad as well as he could last season when he had less of these problems. But I feel that as bad as our club is set up, as bad as our club has been managed over a long period of time, every manager who comes in is just going to give you what every other good manager has given us over the past 11 years, which is 1 or 2 years of a new manager bounce, where they try and churn out the very best of their abilities, but then it's not sustainable. It is not. They are just set up to fail. I call this job a poison chalice. Fortune favors the brave if you choose to take this job, but you're putting your career at a huge risk. You're putting your reputation at a huge risk if you take a job like Manchester United in the way that we are set up. So my hope and prayer is that Ineos does step in. As well as they've diagnosed the problem, I expect them to give the best form of treatment to the problem, which is to tackle the club from the very top. And then we see that. We've seen all the signs of that. We've seen all members of the old regime when it comes to the management of the football club being shifted aside, and then they're bringing in football people. I think it starts from there. Once we effect these changes, I do believe that it offers any manager, it doesn't necessarily have to be Erik Ten Hag, it offers any manager at all the best chance of actually succeeding at this football club. But in its present setup, how it's always been, like any other job, like I've used my job to describe it, if the conditions are not perfect, you are most likely to make mistakes. You're most likely to fail. And I feel that is exactly what's happened to Erik Ten Hag in this particular season, happened to managers in previous seasons. Yes, there have been injuries. Yes, recruitment hasn't been 100% spot on. Some people may even point fingers to the fact that you got certain players into this football club that have not been successful. Case in point is Anthony. But then, not every football player who will be signed into this football club for whatever amount of money is meant to be successful. You've seen that with so many wingers we've signed over the past 11 years. Di Maria had failed. Memphis Depay failed. Who else? Dan James wasn't a huge success. Sancho wasn't a huge success at Manchester United, irrespective of whatever he's shown over the past week. For over 2 years at this football club, he has been hugely underwhelming. He's been a flop. Let's just call a spade a spade. Anthony has been a flop. So not all signings are going to work. But you give yourself a best chance if you set up properly and have a plan, a long-term plan for this football club, which involves football people making actual football decisions. So much so that Players are signed for this football club. So much so the managers are signed to fit how this football club actually plays. And then we can begin to make some form of inroads. We can get back on track and to be able to compete again. That's my take. That's my personal opinion. A lot of you may disagree with it, but we still want to know your thoughts and your opinions on Erik Ten Hag's interview. Is it truth to this football club, or is it just excuses and waffle of a man who feels he may be at risk of losing his job and is making a last stand? Ten Hag is asking for more time. He says he needs more time. You think he deserves more time? That's a message for the fans. He's saying he's disappointed in this season, but then when we are strong, when he says when we are strong, he's talking about when everybody is fit and when everybody is available. We have shown that we've been able to compete. That's debatable. I'm sure that's very debatable, but then, yeah, he says we've been able to compete. And then we can compete further if we have a very strong transfer window. He sounds like a man who believes he will still be in the job come the summer. Do you think Erik Ten Hag deserves another shot at this job? Does he deserve to be our manager next season? Or he's had his time, he's had his opportunities, and it's time to let him go? Let us know all your comments to everything that has been discussed on the podcast today, on United Today, and we'll definitely see you on the next one.